JB, I got a question for you, buddy.
What's going on?
If you were the general manager today, okay?
Okay.
And how do I do this for JB? I think I should select maybe the first five picks, right? So let's assume the Panthers take Bryce Young, okay? Let's also assume that CJ Stroud goes to the Houston Texans. And the Arizona Cardinals don't trade back and they draft Will Anderson. And the Colts draft Will Levis. And the Seahawks don't want to pass on a guy like Jalen Carter. They're willing to take the risk. So Carter goes 5. And at 6, your big board is Anthony Richardson, Tyree Wilson, Christian Gonzalez, Kalijah Kancey, Brian Branch, Lucas Van Ness. What does JB do this morning?
Oh, that's a tough one. All right. So Anthony Richardson is still there.
Anthony Richardson is available.
I am not taking a QB that high, that early. No disrespect to Anthony Richardson. But if I'm in that position, I'm probably trying to see if I could trade back with either the Raiders or Atlanta to see what they would want.
Can I ask you something, though? Realistically, why would you trade up if you're the Raiders or Atlanta when you just signed quarterbacks?
You just signed, backup quarterbacks?
Well, not really. No, Jimmy G's going to be the starter in Vegas. And I don't agree with what Atlanta did.
What is going on
I don't
outside?
know. Somebody died, but what are you going to do? I don't agree with what Atlanta did, but they did sign Heineke, and they're paying him a lot of money. He's going to start next year.
That's true, too.
So I don't think they're going to give up the picks, but let's say you can't trade back.
Can't trade back?
Gun to your head. You have to make a decision this morning. What do you do? You tell me you don't want a quarterback, so what is it?
I'm taking Kancey.
You're taking Kancey.
Yeah. No
Okay,
disrespect to Christian Gonzalez. He was my pick a while ago, but seeing the moves that Brad Holmes has just made, or the moves that I would make if I was a GM, then yeah, I'm taking Kancey.
Wow. Okay, I was expecting you to say Tyree Wilson, to be honest with you. But I'm glad you brought up Kancey, because that is exactly who this discussion is about. And the reason I asked you this is because we need to get comfortable with the idea that it's going to be Kancey, Tyree Wilson, Christian Gonzalez, Brian Branch, Lucas Van Ness, Joey Porter Jr.
I think Jalen Carter, I think he has a chance to be there at 6. I really do.
After what you saw.
That pro day?
After what you saw, you're going to still select him at 6.
Well, I'm not saying it's tough. That's something Brad's going to have to decide.
No,
they get to interview him, so they'll know more about the prospect itself than we will. But if you're talking Kalijah Kancey or Jalen Carter, that's where it gets interesting. Because if you're Brad, are you
Prior
taking
to his pro day, I would have said Jalen Carter.
Right? Are you taking Jalen Carter even with the off the field issues because you know how talented he is on the field and what he can do, or Kalijah Kancey, who has 0 question marks off the field and it was super productive at Pitt? Like that's, and right now we have a poll I put up. It's who would you take at 6 for the Lions? Christian Gonzalez, Anthony Richardson, Kalijah Kancey, or Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter and Kalijah Kancey, 2 most highest votes. 45% say Jalen Carter, 33% say Kancey, and the next 2 are split.
33% have a little bit of sense of what's going on in the room. The other 45%, again, I saw your comments yesterday on our YouTube channel. I saw the comments about if you guys were in Jalen Carter's situation, you would fold under the pressure too. Well, fuckface, I'm not paid $13 million a year to be one of the best defensive tackles in all of football. Fuckface. If he can't handle the pressure of losing a loved one and driving 44 over the speed limit and showing up overweight when he's under stress, what the fuck is this individual going to do in a high-pressure football game? In the fourth quarter, when he's exhausted like everybody else, is he going to dig deep and find the extra energy, that extra willpower to will him through the game, to make that final singular play that wins his team a game? That's not what I saw at the pro day. What I saw is a guy that showed up, was tired, didn't want to be there, and was just going through the motion. To me, I'm not saying he's a bad person, but that's a job interview, man. And some people flunk the job interview and then go on to be very successful. That happens.
Right.
But when you ask me to spend the 6th overall pick and you give me that much to think about, I don't want to have to think about you.
Right.
I want to draft you like Aiden Hutchinson and put you away. I don't have to think about Aiden Hutchinson for the next decade.
Never.
I don't want to have to think that this guy could be a Nick Fairley or who was the fat fuck? Albert Hainsworth.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to have to think about those comps. I want to think of Jalen Carter as a John Hargraves and Eric Armstead, among one of the best interior linemen, Quinnen Williams. That's what I would love to think about him. That's what his tape suggests. But you show up to a job interview like that, you got a lot to come back from.
I love this comment Garrett puts. He says, can't take Carter as things are. Campbell's rules are don't be late, don't show up overweight, and respect the game. No way they take him. Joey also says in the chat, if Holmes, and WoodwardSports.com, if Holmes and Campbell pull the trigger on Carter, I'll be okay with it. If anyone can get Carter back on track, it's Campbell. I can't blame people who don't want the risk at 6, though. I kind of agree with both points.
You got to be ready to play.
Got to be ready to play. I mean, there you go.
That's the reality of life, guys. Look, I'm not telling you Carter isn't talented.
Oh, he is.
We
Yeah.
all know he's talented. You know who else was talented? Jamarcus Russell was talented.
Okay, well.
No. Don't fuck with me now. We're being real here. Sam Bradford was talented. Different reasons, not character issues. For Jamarcus, it was character issues. And Ndamukong Suh. The Lions drafted Ndamukong Suh. He was all-pro year 1. He should have gone number 1 overall, in my opinion. Rams went with Bradford. Thank you. He gave you 1 all-pro season. And Ndamukong Suh in Detroit was a bust. Because you drafted him number 2 overall, and he left after his first contract expired, and he never gave you a double-digit sack season outside of his first year. Production went down and down and down every single year after that.
Yeah.
And then he left to Miami. And then he recovered. He had a good ending to his career. But he was a bust. And that's Ndamukong Suh. Think about that. Think about that before you tell me Jalen Carter, character this, character that. Your ability to control your emotions in high-stress situations is what separates the elite from the average Joes. You don't believe me? Go look at how cops in the United States of America handle high-stress situations, and go compare that to your Green Berets, your Navy SEALs, your special forces in general in the United States, in your military. Completely different. One's more adept to high-stress situations, the other isn't. Others perform in high-stress situations, others don't.
And let me clarify what you meant by Suh, by the way, because...
No. He's a bust in Detroit. He didn't last us more than one contract.
True.
1 all-pro season was his rookie year.
And you're
I'm
right.
not dogging him, but when I take a guy number 2 overall, I expect a decade of performance. I'd even get him for a second contract. Come on. I'm not hating on Suh. I
agree with your point
I have
that-
an Ndamukong Suh jersey at home. Love the guy.
Right. He did regress as the years went on.
But
So
let's be real
you're
here.
Not
You
wrong.
draft somebody number 2 overall, it's a decade investment.
No,
If
I
Aiden
get it.
Hutchinson leaves after his first contract and never posts
But-
more than 7 sacks for the next 3 years, he's a bust, no? So why is it different with Ndamukong Suh?
I mean, yeah, I don't hate it. Now, if Jalen Carter could give me what Suh did in his first couple years, I'm all for it. I'm good. But, yeah. I think when you first hear what you just said, I think people just hear bust and they assume you're saying he was a wasted pick.
Again.
But if you're
Again.
talking about it in that context over...
Guys, you drafted him number 2 overall. He played 5 years with you, okay? He was an all-pro, I want to say 3 times. He was a 3-time all-pro. He was... was he 3? I'm pretty sure he was 3-time all-pro. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But year 1, 10 sacks, and then 4, and then 8, and then 5.5, and then 8.5.
Yeah, I get that.
His last year was arguably, to be honest, his best year as a professional. But the character, the antics,
Right.
the stomping on people, the unnecessary roughness penalties, it was a disaster. I'm not telling you Ndamukong Suh is a bust in terms of he's a player, but as a pick, I got him for 5 years, and I drafted him number 2 overall. That's a miss, guys. That's a miss.
Yeah, maybe he didn't have the longevity we expected, but
it's a miss.
when he came out, he was a beast.
No, he was phenomenal.
He was a
Who
beast.
doesn't love Ndamukong Suh? He's fucking great.
But again, if you come out your rookie year and have 10 sacks,
he was all-pro year one.
Right. Like, you expect, 10 sacks, 12 sacks, 13 sacks. Like, you expect him to consistently improve. Listen, he maybe didn't have the career you would expect a number 2 overall pick to have, but
again,
I'll take that.
I really think you're not understanding me this morning. Let me try to say this slowly.
I'll draft him all over again.
For only 5 years?
To give me what he gave me?
He gave you, again,
They
a
just
lot,
couldn't retain him?
But you're also, what he gave you compared to also all the on-the-field issues he gave you. How many games he was suspended. All the unnecessary roughness penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Some that costed you games. Again, I'm not saying Ndamukong Suh he was great coming out. He was all-pro year one. He made 3 all-pros, I'm pretty sure, in 5-year span.
Yeah.
But I spent the number 2 overall pick on a guy that didn't last more than 5 years with my team. How am I supposed to feel good about that? How? You're a GM, all of you. You're at home. You're a GM. A number 2 overall pick. If Aiden Hutchinson gets you 28 sacks in his first 5 years,
it's not good.
And then walks, that's okay. But he made 3 All-Pros. But that's okay?
I mean, you'd expect the sacks to be more for number 2 overall pick.
Well, that's what Ndamukong Suh was too.
Right. And especially if he comes out and plays like that.
I really think nobody's really understanding what I'm saying.
I just think when people hear bust...
was the right pick.
Yes.
Well, you hear bust because you didn't get him for long. You got him for 5 years.
And you said the antics and the personality...
At the end, grew old.
Yes.
And he wasn't what... again, what can I say? What can I say? Maybe I'm looking at the situation wrong, but when I take a guy number 2 overall, I don't know, I kind of want to see him re-sign after his first contract.
And I love the people that are like, he's an interior defensive tackle. What do you mean more sacks?
I didn't say more sacks.
It's not necessarily the number of sacks.
He was phenomenal.
It's just the, I guess, where he floated
Remember
around.
when he killed Ndamukong Suh he killed Donovan McNabb in the preseason?
He was an animal. But if you come out with 10 sacks and you... again, it doesn't matter. I guess we're getting off point here. But I don't think he was a bust, but I get where you're coming from. I do.
Because
you're taking everything into account.
I can't
longevity,
imagine spending a number 2
antics.
overall pick on a player, and he doesn't make it past his first contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again,
George said Suh was a beast, but how many penalties did he cost in late situations?
Yeah. Look, again, I'm not telling you Suh wasn't the right pick, or that he wasn't phenomenal in that 5-year stretch. But when you're honest with yourself, who spends a number 2 overall pick just to watch the guy leave after his first contract?
No, it's not ideal.
That is shit.
Doesn't mean the pick itself was a bust, but the fact that you couldn't re-sign him,
and also contracts were different at the time for rookies and in general for the NFL. So
yeah, that's on the Lions for not re-signing. The pick itself was fine. That's what I'm trying to get.
But how it ended up was shit. It was a bust. Again, we all conveniently forget how he was acting the last 2 years of his career in Detroit.
Yeah, I don't think that makes him.
And how many games he cost his team, and how.
No, I get that, but saying just because he wasn't here his whole career, it makes him a bust at number 2 overall. I'll take that production from Jalen Carter. If you gave me what Suh gave the Lions, and he left, I'll take it. Give me 4 or 5 years of that production, I'll be fine. I wouldn't say he's a bust, but we must have our own definition of bust, I guess.
Let me ask you this. You spend a number 2 overall pick. Would you want them to have a career like Trent Williams, Gerald McCoy? Excuse me, not Gerald McCoy. I'm reading this backwards. Apologize. But you want... Okay. I'm not going to get caught up on Ndamukong Suh right now.
Yeah, it's really not even
maybe bust is a bit harsh. How about that?
It was disappointing.
Maybe bust is a bit harsh. But I think it's extremely disappointing that you draft somebody number 2 overall, and granted, different regime, different front office, different everything, different time in Detroit, but you draft him, and he's not your staple, your pillar for 10 years.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
If Aiden left after 5 years and gave you 2 all-pro seasons, you would be extremely disappointed. Excuse my language, bust the wrong word. Extremely disappointed, I think, is much more fair.
That he left, yes, I agree.
Draft somebody number 2 overall just to see them leave? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that take.